Hi everyone. Today I'm going to guide you step by step on how to paint this face with watercolor. On my recent video, I already did the skin color and now we're moving on to the eyes and lips. What I'm doing now is I'm activating the watercolor, meaning I'm putting some water on the paints so they all get a little bit soft and it will be easier to use. Now I'm trying to mix for the eye color that I want, which is sort of a green-blue color. So I'm just mixing a few of this green that I have with light blue until I get the color that I want. I keep the exact same watercolor paper on my side to try on the paint colors before I put it on the painting. As you can see before, I was trying the skin tone as well. And now I'm applying the green color on the eyeball. If you notice, I didn't color one circle on top of the eyeball. So that is for the highlight, meaning the brightest part of the watercolor painting. I don't usually apply white color on my watercolor painting. So anything that I would like to keep white, I would just leave it unpainted. Watercolor paintings comes in layers and layers of color. The first layer is usually just straightforward, like you just sort of color in the green color of the eye. And then while we're waiting for that part to be done, I'm applying very light gray color, the white part of the eye, to create some shadows. This will create the real effect on the eye and make the eyes look sort of like sparkly and bright. And while we're waiting for the eye part to get fully dry, we're gonna move on to the lips. If you want me to explain every single color that I mixed to create this color, you can write down that question on the comment below. I will give you all the details. But basically, I just mix a little bit of red, a little bit of the skin tone color that I've had before until I reach the color that I want. Definitely, there are no right or wrong to choosing the color that you want for the eyes and lips. Basically, any color that you like. And for the lips, so you might just use lipstick, so you can use even bright red color, or you can use pink, or even something a little bit of more pale and nude. If you also notice, I also leave a little bit of highlight part on her lips. I mark this highlight part all before on the sketch, so you don't have to think about it when you do the painting. I probably forgot to mention before that all this sketch that I am showing you today, you can download them for free on my website, and you can print them directly on a watercolor paper. So what I'm doing now is I'm working on the second layer on the eyeballs, and I basically using the same color. You see here, I made a mistake. I put too much paint on the eyeball, and what I do is just I'm absorbing all the mistake with the paper towel, so that will just take all the paints, the wet paint that I just put on her eyeball, and I took it out and I just leave it to dry. While waiting for that one eyeball to dry, I just move on to the other eyeball. So I'm doing the same. I'm doing the center of the eye, which the color is darker, and after that finish, I move on to the left eye and doing the exact same thing. I just realized that I probably should zoom in more on this part of painting the eyes so you can see how much detail that I put on the eyes, but you can zoom in yourself and see what did I actually put in on the eyeballs. And for all of this, I'm just using a small brush. It's just easier to add detail like this, and I want it to be really precise, so just the tiniest paintbrush is the best for this. While waiting for the eye part to be done, I move on to her lips again. As you can see, I'm just using the same color that I used before for her lips. But the beauty of watercolor is if you change your mind on the second layer, you can absolutely apply different color. For example, if you want her lips to be brighter red or darker red or different shade of pink, what I'm doing now is I'm fading the line on the bottom of her lips so it looks more natural. I'm using a clean wet brush just to take out some of the color and make the line softer. Now I'm moving to her eyeball again and I'm trying to imitate iris, so I'm using really thin and fine brush and have a go on the piece of paper before I put it on her eyes to make sure that I can create that very fine line on her eyeball. So I'm brushing really fine lines through her eyes and make circular motion throughout the iris part of her eyes. Again, I feel like I need to zoom in a little bit more for this part, which I will on the next part, but if you would just zoom in a little bit more, then you can see how much detail that I put onto her eyeball. I also put a little bit of darker lines on the outer part of her eyeball to make the eyes look more round and it's just look more realistic this way. I think in painting a face, the eyes part is really important, and I like it to be detailed and look real and look alive because it will be the center of your painting. After this, the eyeball part will be fully done, and then we can move on again to color her lips. Now I'm going to add more detail and texture on her lips. If you look closer even to your own lips, our lips are not flat. We have a little bit of lines here and there going on, so that's what I'm trying to imitate. And I put some parts slightly darker than the other parts to make the lips looks more round and plumpy. I usually start my video by explaining each of the equipments that I use, but I just started painting straight on this video, so if you do have some questions about the paintbrush or the watercolor brand or anything else, just pop it up on the comments below and I will be happy to answer your questions. I do already put the list of equipments that I use, and some of them I have the link where you can get them from Amazon or any other shop. Just check the description below, and if you don't find it there, just pop me another question. If you see here, I still leave the white part of the lips from the beginning up until the end to keep the highlight part of the lips. And I also did the same thing on the bottom part of the lips to make the color a little bit of fade, so it blends more with the skin color. Now, same like the eye part, I actually did a mistake on this part of the lips. I put too much paint, and what I do is I just take that paper towel and absorb it quickly, so all the paints that I just put there will get absorbed and out, and then after it gets fully dry, I can just redo the paint again. Watercolor, you can wait until the very end of the painting process and recheck all your colors again, because all the colors is brighter when it's all fully dried up. So on this case, I feel like her nostril is not dark enough, so I'm just adding darker color on that one. Now to color the black part of her eye, like her eyelashes, I'm using this black color from the tube because I think the color is just denser than the one that I took from the pen, and it's just definitely easier just to get one type of dense color out of the paint tube than out of the pen. And like what I did before, I tried on the piece of paper and see how thin of the line that I can make with this specific paintbrush before I apply it to her eye. I start applying her eyeliner. This is pretty much like if you're a woman and you like to put makeup on yourself, this is pretty much just like that. So you follow the line on the top eyelid, and just to be clear, you do need a very steady hand to make this thin fine line with a dense color, because if you make a mistake, it will be probably a little bit hard to undo with this dark black color, so your hand has to be steady. It means you have to warm up a little bit on your painting. So don't do this part the first time you started painting on that day. So you have to have a little bit of practice before you started on the eyelid, so you're sure that you're gonna make it right the first try. Please do not freak out when I say that this part is gonna be a little bit difficult. All you need to do is you just take another piece of blank watercolor paper and practice on that before you get real with this one. The eyelashes is sort of also a delicate part of this painting. You have to imitate one by one of each eyelashes, and it also has to be on the right direction. Don't worry, I did draw the eyelashes on the sketch so you can follow that, but definitely you need a little bit of improvement. It means you have to sort of know how eyelashes go. For this one, you can just easily just look up any pictures that you like, a type of eyelashes that you want, and just imitate that. So basically I would start with thin eyelashes and then spread it out throughout her eyes. After that, I'm adding a bit more denser color and make the eyelashes more separated or together. It depends what you like, so that it will be easier for me form the shape if I start with thinner or faded color, because I knew that I can just top it up later on and add denser paint, rather than if I started with denser paint and I make a mistake, that will be a bit difficult to undo. I find that the angle to make these eyelashes is also important, meaning your hand movement and the position of the paper. You will find which one is more comfortable for you. You can easily rotate the paper when you do these eyelashes. I don't do it in this video on purpose, that it's not gonna be confusing for you, but that's what I normally would do if I try to make lines like this that goes into a different movement or different direction. I basically just move around the paper, and then which angle that is work easier for me, and using the brush tip, that's what I would do. You can see I spent a little bit more time to work on her eyes, because number one, I do like to paint eyes or draw eyes. That is one of my favorite things that I like to draw. And then second of all, I feel like the little bit more time you put in is making the eyes looking more realistic, and it will make your painting stand out. Now on this part, I actually remember to zoom in the picture a little bit more so you can see what details I put into her eyes. So now you can see how real and alive her eyes look like. And then on a final touch, after her eyelashes are done, I'm also adding a little bit of darker shadows on her white part of the eyes, because I think that's also important to add some shadows on some part that we sometimes forget. And I think her eyes do looks like it looks alive. What do you think? Leave me on the comment section below, what can you see from her eyes? And after I finish with her eyes and move on again to her lips, this will be the last layer. So I'm adding darker red color, especially here on the lip line between the two lips. They mostly gonna be the darkest part of the lip. And then I will probably add a little bit more darker color on the edge, on the right and on the left side of her lips, so her lips just feel more curve or plumpy. That's what's the word. Plumpy. To learn how the brightness and contrast of the painting, you can also actually do that with just a piece of paper and a pencil. That's what I did a long time ago when I used to learn to draw, especially on the eyes and lips, because they have so many different colors and density of the color. I just use just a normal pencil and then put different pressure and different texture. And then I remember that I was drawing a lot of eyes and lips everywhere, all over my books, even when I was at school. That time I was still at school. So it's all over my textbook, because that's the most things that actually really interesting in somebody's face, the eyes and the lips. So don't worry if you feel like you're not good enough working on this watercolor at the moment. Trust me, you will get better with practice. Just practice and practice every time you can. Trust me, you will get better at this. So this is it. We come to an end. I've mostly finished with the eyes and the lips. And yeah, so when I said after I finish everything, I look over all the things that I painted and I forgot a little bit of detail on the edge of her eyes. I'll put a little bit of pink color because that's what it is. You have that little pink thing on your eye. And then now we're actually done. What do you think of the end result? Do you like it? If you like to watch this video and you find it useful, please consider to subscribe and turn on your notifications so you won't miss the next video that I will upload. As you probably already guessed, my next video is going to be how to paint her hair in detail. I'm Keishart. I'm a watercolor artist from Australia. Please watch more videos to support my channel so that I can make more videos like this for you for free.